TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Who's one person that you never wrestled that you wanted to? Is there anybody?
No, not really.
Right. Who is probably the best promoter?
Honest or how are we talking?
What one promoter you wanted to work for the most?
That you respected.
Yeah. I mean, there could be one or two.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of promoters that were real nice people and paid reasonably well. The best pay ever was Portland, Oregon with Don Owen. But again, if you're in little buildings that don't draw a whole hell of a lot versus going to Florida when you're in Miami Beach and you got 10,000, 11,000 people in there, regardless of what to pay, you're still going to get paid more in Florida.
Right.
But Paul Boesch, also from Houston, Texas, he'd give you the gross figure of what was in the building.
Right.
And they were allowed to net out whatever. And then that figure is where the champion was supposed to be paid. Paul would show you those figures. Don Owens would show you those figures. Not too many of them, more of them would.
Right. Who was the worst promoter then?
You can't put worst to it. All of them are reasonably good guys.
Right.
What I was saying earlier about the AWA with Vern and Tulsa, Oklahoma area with Watts, that would be two of the places that you worked the hardest and got the less out of.
Right.
Do you think that territories can survive today? Because they are resurfacing. You got Shawn Michaels' promotion. Dusty's running Georgia. You're doing Kansas again.
Yeah, but they've always, that thing has been there. They just got a bigger name tied to them now.
Right.
There's probably 4 or 5 different promotions around central part of America. I just happen to be the one with a name. Florida, Georgia, I know 2 or 3 different promotions that are trying to run in there too. And Dusty's the one with a name there. Now, on the other hand, we have to tolerate a lot of crap because of that other crap that's out there.
Right.
A couple different promotions there around where I'm at it went in with phony insurance things and tore up the high school gyms, and then when they send the insurance in to fix their gym, they find out that it's bogus and they don't have any.
Right.
And even though that happens, the State Athletic Commission really can't do anything about it until you get into a lawsuit. Then they can be brought in. And sooner or later it'll happen. Only the better of them will survive and the rest of them will go by the wayside. Favorite would be New Zealand, just for the fact that it is New Zealand.
Right.
It's the prettiest place on earth. Talent-wise, Florida and North Carolina were about an equal. Worst place would have to be Oklahoma. There's only a few large cities there, and they're hundreds of miles apart.
Right. What was it like working for Bob Geigel?
Well, I worked for Geigel for about less than a year. Then I was Geigel's partner, so it wasn't bad after that.
It's too hard as well. You worked for him a little bit.
Yeah, I love going to Calgary. I knew I was going to travel my ass off.
Right.
One of the worst trips on earth is you finish Regina and you head to Calgary, 570 some mile away. And every year at the Stampede Days is when I most generally went up there.
Right.
They had a strike. All the breweries would have a strike. So you'd have to try to haul it back from Saskatoon
Right.
into Calgary, and they had liquor stops everywhere. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police are like the Gestapo. They don't need a reason to stop you. They know that about 10 carloads of wrestlers are going to be on that road that night, and they're going to get about 100 cases of beer out of that 10 carloads, and they did it every time.
Right.
Stu and the whole Hart family, to me, they just don't make them too much nicer than that family.
Right. We just did Brett last week. I think I was telling you. What was your relationship with Owen Hart?
When I was wrestling up around Calgary, Owen was just a little boy. So I, other than just being an ornery little asshole around you most of the time,
Right.
I never really got to know him until I was virtually out of the wrestling. I knew Brett, I knew Keith, I knew Bruce, I knew Smith, and all those guys were wrestling at the time I was around there. But Owen was the baby of the family. Later on, there's a story, I think you probably already heard it. He came to my house one night when I had all the guys over.
Barbecue.
The chili.
Right.
He took the insanity sauce and almost choked mankind.
Right. Right.
So the following night, they were in Topeka, Kansas, and I went over to see him. I had a 250,000 volt stunt gun, and he's standing in the locker room with nothing on. I inserted it in his butt, squeezed it off, and all he could do was just shimmy and jerk until I released the trigger.
Right. So, yeah, I guess there's a lot of, everyone talks about your famous barbecues at your house and stuff like that.
Well, there's two things I could do in life: wrestle and cook.
Right.
And I don't know which order I was the best in, but
TitleMatchNetwork.com